what has tainted that the brand of Islam, and by the way, our Islam, the Muslims, are mostly Sunni Muslim. They are what you would describe as the Wahhabi Saudi Arabian. Not much of the radical teachings, but a calm, subdued. So we participate in each other's. My brother's wife comes Sunday. In fact, she will help to my clerical dress shirt. She will launder and also iron it for me, a Muslim Hajj. That's the kind of relationship, which may be different from Pakistan or India or Egypt. So sometimes the context, the country influences the reaction. So I hope you keep that in mind. The Brotherhood, that's mainly an Egyptian kind of brand of Islam, which may be different from the Pakistani. What J. Smith really, I don't know whether you got it, but he talked about several times reference going back to the roots. Now, did he say what that root is? I don't seem to get that.
It's the book.
Foundation.
The Quran. Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, but no reference. I mean, jihad was the subject, was the thing. And he did not give us any reference in the Quran for jihad. Now, recently, we have a prof here, Joe Ilosky. He just returned from a trip where one of his colleagues in this group they work together is, I forgot the name of the group, but Lamin Saneh is one of the foremost scholar when it comes to Islamic history. And he happens to be Gambian. We grew up together. And he just came back from, which is the most populated Islamic country? Is it Saudi Arabia?
No.
Indonesia.
Indonesia.
Just came back from Indonesia. And there he argued that there is no real reference in the Quran about jihad.
He said, or you are saying it?
Well, I support him.
And that is wrong. That's totally wrong, sir.
This is what he said. In a very orthodox Islamic country, and they supported him. So that is, and we have to struggle with the word jihad. And J. Smith struggled with it. In America, we're struggling with that. In Europe, we are struggling with that. So is this something that is unfounded? Is this something that is politically motivated? There's an agenda in this piece. So where do we stand about this jihad? And there's also the caliphate. And I believe that this is my own thinking. As I look at all of these radical episodes, it is geared towards the caliphate, the establishment of an Islamic state. Well, in the golden days of Islam, that was true. I mean, up to 1924, the last Islamic state was where? Turkey. So mostly what we call the radical Muslims want to resurrect that. And they're using the formula of jihad so to achieve that goal. So that's an agenda. And you have also to recognize that even though Islam is a 7th century religion, the aim of Muhammad was globalizing Islam. So there is a global aspiration. So all of what they do now, especially on the radical side, and by the way, Islam is as missionary as Christianity is. Unfortunately, we are retracting from our missionary intensity, whereas they have picked up on that. And in fact, what used to be our own missionary strategy, I would say that they have perfected that. So let's discuss and share our experience of what you believe or think. Brother Ken.
You'd asked earlier about, was there any thing that came out of the presentation? And I guess that we keep hearing that it's 0.1%. 99.9 Muslims are not radical. Yet 238 million agreed that if you left the faith, you should be put to death. And that therein lies the challenge, I think, for us as Christians, because a lot of times if you can convince a family member, that family member can work with you to turn the whole family, unless you're witnessing to a Muslim. Because a Muslim, even if they become convinced that Jesus is their Lord and Savior, they're not going to go say something to their family because their family believes that they should be put to death. So that is a challenge for us as Christians. That's one of the leverages we don't have that Islam has. As you pointed out, there are basically two religions that are charged with gaining new members. As Christians, go ye therefore and teach all nations, and Islam. And Islam is directed, Muslims are directed to go out and reach out and turn the people to Allah and to follow Muhammad. And if they don't, then it's not good for them. So we really have a challenge as Christians to work with Muslims to bring them to Christ. So that was one of the things I noticed about that. There were 238 million that fell in that group, which is certainly more than 0.1%.
As you said, I can stand. As you said that there's no reference such as jihad. I did my master's in comparative religions, and I read Quran in Arabic and in other languages also, and I do radio and TV programs for comparative religions to answer those questions. There are more than 300 verses referencing towards jihad, starting directly with Muhammad. If you go to Surah Anfal, which is chapter 8, verses 87 to 60, it directly talks to Muhammad that once you get dominion over people, any land, let's take Paris or Pakistan or whatever, then you don't fear. Instead, you invite them to Islam, and if they don't, either they pay you jizya, which is a tax, or you convert, or if they cannot meet these two terms, then kill them by the sword. And there are multiple references for that. As Pastor said, that for them, my own grandfather was a Muslim and he came to Christ. And there's a real story. There's a book called The Despicable Missionary. I can give reference afterwards this to you guys if you want to read. That's my story and my grandfather. We have that point where we can convert one Muslim and they will not even come out and take a baptism because they are in fear of their own life. Not only their life, their family's life, they cannot leave. So, as J. Smith said, the 65% of all the trouble, I will say, is in Pakistan. And we are from Pakistan. And we know the way they teach the Madudi and all those things that he was talking about, the history, that all runs into Pakistan. And when nobody knew about the terrorism, we knew as little children growing up. So, how we are going to reach them? This is my question to everybody. We do an evangelism mission which is called Voice of Faith. We do reach Muslims, we do talk to them, and they do agree, some of them. There is a point where they will come and say, okay, Christ is the real thing and Muhammad is not, but they cannot confess it. How we are going to deal with those kind of situations?
Maybe you did a different sphere than me. I also studied those texts. The jizya in its proper context is, yes, if in the days of Muhammad, where Christians are being guarded by Muslim in a Muslim state, they have to pay tax. That's the jizya. And if you refuse to pay it, there is a penalty. But that is not jihad. That is not jihad. The word jihad itself has a Sufi connotation. Jihad is inside cleansing. That is the proper, true interpretation. Is cleansing oneself towards God, Allah. Purification. That is the term for jihad. The other context, the other reference for jihad is arms is used only when your religion is threatened, i.e. the Islamic religion. Those are the tasfir, the proper interpretation. So one is if you are in a Muslim majority context and being taken care of by the Muslim state, you have to duty bound to pay tax. And if you refuse, then you should be ostracized. And the other one is the one I said that when the religion is threatened, you use arms. But the proper and true interpretation of jihad is a kind of mystical inside cleansing. Now you see, sometimes what people, you can use a good text and misuse its interpretation and its goal. And that's what we have seen. Some Muslims, many of them, like Christians, do not know their religion, nor the text, nor the theology. So they have misinterpreted the text. So in my mind, that's what is going on with even the radical Muslims. They use the text to manipulate. They use the text for something which is wrongly intended, as some of our Christian evangelists have done too. Same thing. So you may be reading a different text, a different study than I. I have extensively studied those texts.
Yeah, but the
myself.
word jihad means struggle.
Struggle is not killing.
Struggle is killing for them.
Okay. May I comment?
Oh, no,
sir?
there'll be.
Albin, go ahead.
Dr. Loum, I'm from Sudan, and I know back then I was very